So I'd like to start with House Bill 1267, which we actually did vote on a previous version last summer. My predecessor, Representative Mike Pfeiffer, had a bill, and it did pass the House last June, but I know we have a lot of new members in the committee. I wanted to have a hearing to talk about it. We're very fortunate that our state treasurer is with us, Stacy Garrity. I know the Finance Committee has a lot of interaction with the Treasury throughout the year, and it's wonderful to have you here to join us for this bill. Let me start with the prime sponsor of the bill, Representative Pat Gallagher from Philadelphia.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Samuelson and Greiner, and members of the Finance Committee for considering House Bill 1267. The PA 529 program is an important tool to help Pennsylvania families save for their children's post-secondary education. In 2017, President Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act made changes to the 529 program across the nation. Prior to the change, 529 funds could only be used for post-secondary education. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expanded that to allow funds to be used for K-12 education as well as apprenticeship programs. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania Treasury does not have full authority it needs to administer the expanded PA 529 program. House Bill 1267 would update Pennsylvania law to match the federal changes, giving the PA Treasury the oversight it needs to ensure all PA 529 accounts are used in accordance with the law and regulations. Without an update to the TAP Act, the Treasury has limited authority to prevent fraud, misuse of funds for elementary and secondary education, and apprenticeship programs. House Bill 1267 would move Keystone Scholars Program, which gives every Pennsylvania child a $100 investment in their future education, into the proper home in the TAP Act. Thank you again. I will ask the committee's support of House Bill 1267 so the Treasury can ensure the expanded 529 program runs as smoothly as possible. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Gallagher. I'd now like to call on the co-prime sponsor of the legislation, my colleague, Chair Keith Greiner from Lancaster County.
Thank you, Chairman Samuelson. Yes, I do also want to thank Representative Gallagher. We worked together on this. I know the treasurer had approached me, and as well as last session, one of the other CPAs, Representative Mike Pfeiffer at the time, had worked on this, and I know he had reached out to me as well. And at the beginning of this session, I thought it's had broad-based support in the past, and I thought this would be a good bill to have two co-prime sponsors on. So I did reach out to Chairman Samuelson, and I said, how about I work with somebody else on this to get this across the goal line? And as we said, this gets things in line with the feds, with what the President Trump had done a few years ago, and like I said, it's more technical in nature. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a unanimous vote last session out of the House. So glad to be part of this bill. Glad to work in a bipartisan manner, which doesn't always happen up here, but like I said, I think it's worthwhile, and hopefully we can, get it moving forward, get it over to the Senate, and look forward to hearing from the treasurer, on this as well, so that she can further explain why this is important.
Thank you, and we have the dream team on this bill, Reps Gallagher and Greiner. I'd like to call on our state treasurer. I know this has been a priority of yours in the previous session, and you have approached us about getting this bill moving this time. So without further ado, Treasurer Stacy Garrity.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Samuelson, Chairman Greiner, and members of the committee. It is really an honor to be with you here this morning. Here with me today is John Stevens. He's an attorney, and he's also the director of the Bureau of Savings Programs at Pennsylvania Treasury. And I'm here to talk about our great PA 529 College and Career Savings Program and how House Bill 1267 will make it even better. First, I want to thank Chairman Greiner and Representative Gallagher for introducing House Bill 1267. I also thank Chairman Samuelson and Representative Webster for co-sponsoring the bill. And I want to recognize the entire General Assembly for decades of strong bipartisan support for this tremendous savings program. Yes, decades. So our PA 529 program has been helping families save and pay for education for more than 30 years. In 1992, former Senator Robert Jubileer spearheaded what was then known as the Tuition Account Program, Act 11 of 1992. And that bill, introduced by a Republican, was unanimously approved by the Senate, which was controlled by Republicans, and the House, which was controlled by Democrats, and it was signed into law by Governor Bob Casey Sr., a Democrat. In other words, the idea of empowering families to save for their children's education and their futures, it's always been bipartisan. Now, over the past 31 years, the PA 529 program has helped families pay for $5.6 billion in qualified education expenses. PA 529 accounts are a great way for families to save for all kinds of education opportunities, and they come with tremendous tax benefits. They can be used to pay for far more than just a four-year degree, which I always emphasize. And of course, four-year degrees remain a great option for higher education, but there are a lot of options, and we've updated our messaging to let everyone know that PA 529 accounts can help the next generation pay for the training they need to succeed in today's workforce, like the training offered by our great community colleges, technical schools, and apprenticeship programs. So we offer two plans for families to choose with many flexible options. There's a PA 529 Guaranteed Savings Plan, or the GSP, and that's the flagship program of the original TAP Act. The GSP is designed for families to save enough to pay for a credit at today's tuition rate and then be guaranteed enough to cover that same credit years from now when their child embarks on their higher education, no matter how much the price goes up. Account earnings are tied directly to tuition inflation. And as of March 31st, the GSP was funded at 128%. We also have the highly rated 529 Investment Plan, or the IP, and that gives families multiple investment portfolio options to choose to best meet their savings goals, like the many target enrollment date portfolios. These regularly reallocate funds based on when a child is expected to use the funds. So our PA 529 IP has received 3 consecutive silver ratings from Morningstar, naming it a best-in-class plan nationwide. We're one of just 14 plans in the country to earn a silver or gold designation in 2022. Thanks to great work by the General Assembly in designing the original TAP Act, Treasury has the ability to implement federal changes that affect 529 plans. Federal changes which took effect in 2018 allowed families to use 529 accounts to cover K-12 tuition expenses. And I'm pleased to report that families have already used PA 529 accounts to pay for $118 million of K-12 tuition expenses. So we know this is something that people support. House Bill 1267 will allow Treasury to make sure the GSP runs as smoothly as possible and works for the best benefit of every family using it to save for education. These changes, what they'll do is they'll give Treasury the authority to invest the GSP fund appropriately for K-12 expenses based on the typical shorter time horizon for using these funds. And this will ensure that the GSP fund is invested appropriately and remains in good fiscal health, meeting the needs of beneficiaries, no matter what level of education they're seeking. So right now, the PA 529 program has nearly 284,000 accounts, about 111,000 GSP accounts, and more than 173,000 IP accounts. Across the whole program, families have over $6.5 billion saved for future education expenses. These numbers are incredible, and they demonstrate that families see the great value of the PA 529 program to help them meet their financial goals. We also have nearly 60,000 children with registered Keystone Scholars accounts. Now, this relatively young program gives every baby born in Pennsylvania since January 1st, 2019, and those subsequently adopted, a $100 starter deposit for their future education. And these funds are invested by Treasury, and they're accessible for qualified education expenses after a child's 18th birthday. Keystone Scholars, which is funded by surplus GSP earnings, uses no taxpayer dollars, and it was signed into law in 2018 as part of the fiscal code. House Bill 1267 will move this great program into the TAP Act where it really belongs. I'm grateful for your continued support to help us spread the word about this important program, which is also an important catalyst to encourage families to continue saving on their own through a linked PA 529 account. Of the families who have already registered their Keystone Scholars accounts, over 23% have opened and linked their own PA 529 accounts to continue saving. And they've saved an impressive $55.8 million so far. Since taking office, I've made a lot of changes to make sure our PA 529 program is working best for our families and is accessible and affordable for everyone who has a goal to save for their child's future. There's no longer a minimum deposit to open an account, and the minimum contribution is just $1. We've also reduced fees for PA 529 investment plan accounts and waived state fees during the current fiscal year for PA 529 guaranteed savings plan accounts. Last summer, we also provided qualifying PA 529 GSP accounts with an additional $100 deposit to further boost their savings. The past 2 years, we've celebrated PA 529 Day on May 29th, with great opportunities for families who start to save with GSP during the month of May. Last month's promotion included more than $30,000 in awards to help boost education savings for our newest account owners, resulting in more than 1,000 new GSP accounts. We've expanded our outreach team, including hiring our first ever director of outreach and marketing and regional program relationship managers to make sure every Pennsylvanian and every county knows about the power of PA 529 accounts and all of Treasury's great programs. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with all of you today. I'm excited about the great changes that are part of House Bill 1267 that will help Treasury administer our PA 529 program in the best way possible for all Pennsylvanians who count on it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Treasurer Garrity. I do want to note for the record the presence of Representative Rossi and Representative Cepeda Freitas. And Representative Mercuri is online. So thank you for being with us. Just wanted to open up to my colleagues here on the Finance Committee if anyone has any questions for our treasurer about the program. Well, I appreciate you being here. This bill, I know, will give you the oversight you need over the federal changes, and also it's important to move the scholars, Keystone Scholars, into the TAP program where it belongs. The last thing you said about the $100 incentive, that's still going on. If a child is born in Pennsylvania after 2019, is that the date?
January 1st, 2019, and that's correct, as long as the GSP is funded over 110%, and right now we're very fortunate that it's 128%, even with giving back some of the money to the GSP account owners and waiving fees.
So if you have a child after January 1st, 2019, you can open an account, and the first $100 is already there in the account as an incentive.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you for being with us. We'll be voting on this bill tomorrow morning during our voting meeting.
Thank you all for your support. Thanks for having me.